There's a photograph taken from the edge of our solar system that captures something extraordinary, not just a scientific observation, but a moment of profound human emotion. It's called the pale blue dot, a single pixel of light suspended in a sunbeam, our entire world reduced to a speck of dust against the cosmic dark. When Carl Sagan first described it, his voice trembled with awe. This wasn't just data, it was a revelation, a reminder that every triumph, every struggle, every love story in human history has unfolded on that tiny dot. And in that instant, science became something more. It became a mirror, reflecting our deepest questions about who we are and where we belong in the vast, silent universe. Some discoveries don't just expand our knowledge, they shatter our expectations and leave us breathless. Think of the scientists who have stood in control rooms, hands clasped over their mouths, tears streaming down their faces as a rover beams back its first images from an alien world. Or the teams who have whispered goodbye to spacecraft like old friends, watching them vanish into the void, carrying pieces of our humanity to the stars. These aren't just milestones in exploration, they're emotional earthquakes, moments where the cold equations of physics collide with the warmth of human wonder. What is it about these discoveries that shakes us to our core? Why do they linger in our hearts long after the headlines fade? Today, we're setting sail on a journey through the most moving moments in space exploration stories where science and soul intertwine. We'll witness the raw, unfiltered reactions of researchers who have stared into the cosmic abyss and found something unexpected themselves. From the heartbreaking final transmissions of distant probes to the dizzying joy of uncovering worlds that defy imagination, these are the discoveries that didn't just change textbooks, they changed lives. So take a deep breath. We're about to step into the moments where the universe reached out and humanity reached back. The pale blue dot wasn't just a photograph, it was a cosmic wake-up call. In 1990, as Voyager 1 turned its camera back toward Earth from 4 billion miles away, it captured something no one expected. Our entire planet, every mountain and ocean, every city and forest, reduced to a single pale pixel. Carl Sagan's voice cracks as he describes it in recordings, his words threading between awe and sorrow. Look again at that dot, he implores. That's here. That's home, that's us. In that fragile speck, all our wars, our art, our loves and losses, everything humanity has ever known, just suspended in a sunbeam. Scientists who'd spent careers crunching numbers found themselves speechless, wiping away tears at their desks. One astrophysicist later confessed she couldn't sleep for nights, haunted by the sheer smallness of it all. Yet that vulnerability became a revelation. Suddenly, political borders vanished. Climate change wasn't just a national issue, it was the fate of that one shimmering dot. Astronauts returning from space often speak of the overview effect, that dizzying shift in perspective when seeing Earth from orbit. But the pale blue dot gave that feeling to billions who'd never left the ground. It turned planetary science into a mirror, forcing us to confront our shared fragility. And in that humility, something unexpected grew, not despair, but hunger. If we were so small, how much more was out there? The image became a rallying cry, fueling missions to Mars, probes to Jupiter's moons, telescopes peering deeper than ever. Every rover rolling across alien soil, every photo from a distant world carries echoes of that moment. Because after seeing our home as a speck, we couldn't help but wonder, what else is waiting in the dark? 15 years of tireless exploration came to a quiet end in 2018, when a planet-wide dust storm swallowed Mars in an orange haze. the Opportunity rover, nicknamed Oppie by the scientists who loved her, fell silent as her solar panels choked beneath the thickening gloom. For months, engineers at NASA, a jet propulsion laboratory, sent over 800 wake-up commands please into the static, hoping for one last whisper. Then on February 13th, they played her a final song, Billie Holiday's I'll Be Seeing You. The room was thick with tears as the last transmission arrived, a single, haunting line of data confirming what they already knew. Oppie's voice, once bright with discoveries, was gone. What made this goodbye so wrenching wasn't just the science lost, it was how deeply human it felt. Engineers who'd spent their careers guiding her across Martian craters began tweeting in her voice, as if she were a friend slipping away. "My battery is low and it's getting dark," one post read, a simple sentence that shattered hearts worldwide. Another showed a cartoon of Oppie as a weary traveler, her lens turned toward Earth as shadows stretched long around her. These weren't just technical bulletins, they were eulogies for a machine that had become family. In her 15 years, Oppie had transcended metal and code. She'd survived dust devils, software glitches, and a mission lifespan meant to last 90 days. She found evidence of ancient water, beamed back over 200,000 images, and even took a selfie with her own shadow stretched across the red soil. But more than that, she taught us how to care for something that couldn't care back. When the team finally closed the mission log, one engineer left a handwritten note, "Thank you, Oppie. Sleep well, little rover." This was the moment robotics stopped feeling cold and distant. Oppie's farewell revealed something startling. We don't just build machines, we pour pieces of ourselves into them. Every hum of her wheels, every photo she snapped, carried human curiosity, hope, and now grief. Her silence left a hole not just in the mission roster, but in the hearts of those who'd spent decades listening for her signals across 34 million miles of space. And yet, in that sorrow, something beautiful lingered. Oppie's legacy wasn't just the data she sent home. It was the way she made us feel less alone in the cosmos. Her journey proved that even in the vast, uncaring expanse between planets, connection is possible. As we turn our eyes to the next emotional discovery, remember, celestial goodbyes are never truly endings. They're waypoints reminding us that every mission, every rover, every star we reach for carries a piece of Earth's heartbeat into the dark. The Cassini spacecraft didn't just study Saturn, it fell in love with it. For 13 years, this robotic explorer danced among the planet's rings, uncovering secrets that rewrote textbooks. But its most breathtaking act wasn't a discovery, it was a goodbye. In 2017, with fuel running low, engineers made a heartbreaking choice. Cassini would take a final, fiery plunge into Saturn's atmosphere, ensuring it could never accidentally contaminate moons like Enceladus, where hidden oceans might harbor life. As the final transmission crackled through the void, the control room at NASA, a jet propulsion laboratory, fell utterly still. No alarms, no chatter, just the sound of a room full of scientists holding their breath. Then silence. One engineer later described it as watching a star go out. This was no ordinary mission end. Cassini's grand finale was a masterpiece of precision and sacrifice. In its last moments, the spacecraft strained every instrument, beaming back data until its antenna melted away. The final image, taken just hours before impact, showed Saturn's rings backlit by the sun, a glittering curtain call. What made this loss so poignant wasn't just the science sacrificed, but the care behind it. By choosing destruction, Cassini's team set a new standard. Exploration shouldn't come at the cost of contaminating worlds we've only begun to understand. And what a legacy it left. Cassini revealed geysers erupting from Enceladus' icy crust, evidence of a subsurface ocean with the chemistry for life. It watched methane lakes ripple on Titan, where rivers carve landscapes under orange skies. It even discovered a hurricane at Saturn's North Pole, wider than Earth, swirling for decades. Yet these triumphs paled beside its final lesson. Sometimes the most ethical act is letting go. That silence in the control room wasn't just grief, it was reverence. These weren't technicians losing a tool. They were custodians ensuring humanity's first footsteps beyond Earth wouldn't trample what we'd yet to discover. Cassini's death wasn't an ending, but a promise. We'll explore, but we'll do it responsibly. And from that solemnity, joy emerges elsewhere. Because for every bittersweet farewell, space offers moments of pure, childlike wonder. Like the day we heard music in the cosmos for centuries, black holes existed only in equations and imagination, cosmic phantoms so powerful they trap light itself. Then, on April 10, 2019, humanity peeled back the curtain. The Event Horizon Telescope's first image of M87 star's shadow wasn't just a scientific triumph, it was a visceral punch to the heart. That glowing orange ring, cradling darkness at its core, made the invisible undeniable. At simultaneous press conferences across 7 countries, astrophysicists who'd spent careers chasing ghosts wept openly. One researcher in Taipei clutched her chest, whispering, "We did it," as the image flickered to life. Another in Brussels sank into his chair, hands shaking not from fatigue but sheer awe. This wasn't just one discovery. It was the culmination of 20 years of global camaraderie, with observatories from Antarctica to the Atacama Desert synchronizing their atomic clocks to within a trillionth of a second. Teams who spoke different languages, lived in different time zones, shared no cultural touchstones except curiosity, had woven the planet into a single, Earth-sized telescope. The data filled half a ton of hard drives, flown by jetliner to be processed by algorithms that ran for months. When the first blurry rings emerged, a graduate student in Massachusetts reportedly sprinted down the hallway, shouting, "It's real." And what a reality! That fiery donut of superheated plasma, swirling at nearly light speed around the event horizon, was Einstein's theory of relativity made visible. Yet for all its mathematical perfection, the image humbled even the most seasoned physicists. The shadow at its center wasn't the black hole itself. It was the absence of one, a silhouette carved into space-time where gravity's grip became absolute. "We've been drawing cartoons of this for decades," admitted one team member. "Seeing it breathe, it's like meeting a legend and finding they're more extraordinary than the stories." But beyond the validation, beyond the equations, lay something deeper. That image connected humanity to the cosmos in a way raw data never could. Here was proof that even the universe's most violent secrets could be beautiful. That light could emerge from the darkest places, and perhaps most stirring, it hinted at how much we still don't see. If we could unveil this hidden giant, what other cosmic specters linger just beyond our vision? Gravitational waves rippling through space, dimensions curled tighter than strings. The Event Horizon Telescope didn't just capture a black hole, it opened a door, and on the other side, the universe whispered, "Keep looking." Somewhere beyond Pluto, where sunlight dims to a faint glow, 2 spacecraft carry the most ambitious love letter humanity has ever written. The Voyager probes, launched in 1977, weren't just built to study Jupiter and Saturn, they were designed to outlive us. Clipped to each craft like a cosmic postcard sits the golden record, a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc containing the essence of Earth. Whale songs and wind, a mother's first words to her newborn, the crackling of fire, and the heartbeat of a woman in love. But perhaps most haunting of all, 55 human greetings in languages from Akkadian, a tongue dead for millennia, to modern Wu Chinese. "We step out of our solar system into the universe," says one voice, trembling with hope, seeking only peace and friendship. The team behind the record, led by Carl Sagan, wrestled with impossible questions. How do you summarize an entire planet in 90 minutes of sound? Do you include war and suffering, or only our aspirations? The debates were heated. Some scientists argued for raw honesty, while others insisted the record should represent humanity at its best. Then there was the music, when Sagan fought to include Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. Eyebrows shot up. Should we really send rock and roll to the stars? One colleague groaned, but Sagan held firm. "There are many adolescents on the planet," he quipped. "This is a gift from Earth's teenagers." Yet for all its optimism, the golden record carries a quiet melancholy. Voyager 1 won't drift near another star for 40,000 years. By then, human voices may be extinct, our city's dust. The record's instructions, etched in scientific symbols showing how to play it, could baffle even an advanced civilization. And yet, we sent it anyway, not because we're certain it'll be found, but because the act of reaching out matters more than the reply. This paradox is what makes the record so deeply moving. It's a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean, bearing our joys and sorrows with no guarantee anyone will ever uncork it. Astronomer Frank Drake, who helped select the sounds, once confessed he lay awake nights wondering, if aliens hear this, will they think we're naive? Or will they recognize the courage it takes to whisper into the dark? That courage resonates today. Every time we beam radio signals at exoplanets, every time we etch messages on spacecraft bound for Europa, we're continuing the golden record's legacy, not as a time capsule, but as a manifesto. It declares that even in a universe of unimaginable scale and indifference, one species dared to say, "We were here and we hoped you were too." The record's true power isn't in its gold plating or carefully curated sounds. It's in the vulnerability of its gesture, the childlike faith that someone, someday, might hold it up to the light and understand. And so the Voyagers sail on, their records spinning silently in the interstellar wind. They carry no engine to slow down, no brakes to stop at some faraway shore. They are, in the end, less like letters and more like prayers, launched not just into space but into time itself. Long after our sun cools and our continents rearrange, these golden disks will still float among the stars, waiting for a hand we can't imagine to lift the needle and hear, across the eons, the sound of Earth laughing in the dark. This relentless yearning for connection, this refusal to let the universe's silence go unanswered, is perhaps our most emotional discovery of all. Because in sending our voices beyond the heliosphere, we didn't just reveal the cosmos. We revealed ourselves. On a quiet August night in 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio captured a signal so extraordinary that the astronomer who discovered it scrawled, "Wow," in red ink across the printout. For 72 seconds, a burst of radiation 30 times stronger than background noise blared from the constellation Sagittarius precisely at the frequency hydrogen resonates in space, the logical channel for extraterrestrial communication. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the signal vanished, never repeated, never explained. 4 decades later, that single page of data, now yellowed with age, remains one of science's most tantalizing mysteries, not just for what it was, but for how it made us feel. Jerry Amon, the volunteer researcher who first spotted the anomaly, spent the rest of his life chasing shadows. Night after night, he'd return to Big Ear Observatory, staring at the same patch of sky, willing the signal to return. Teams across the globe joined the hunt, pointing antennas toward Sagittarius with military precision. All they found was silence, yet that silence spoke volumes. The WOW signal became a Rorschach test for human-longing skeptics saw a natural phenomenon, perhaps a comet's hydrogen cloud. Optimists heard a cosmic hello cut off mid-sentence. What makes this fleeting blip so emotionally potent isn't just its mystery, but its timing. 1977 was the year humanity sent its own message to the stars, the golden record aboard Voyager. At the very moment we were whispering into the void, did the void whisper back? The coincidence is almost cruel. Scientists who lived through that summer describe it as whiplash, the dizzying high of potential contact, followed by decades of sobering silence. One SETI researcher compared it to hearing the phone ring once, then spending your whole life waiting for it to ring again. Yet for all its frustration, the WOW signal ignited something enduring. It transformed SETI from fringe science to serious discipline, inspiring projects like Breakthrough Listen, a $100 million effort scanning 1 million stars for patterns. It taught us to embrace uncertainty, to sit comfortably with questions that may never have answers. And perhaps most beautifully, it revealed how deeply we want to believe we're not alone. When a Portuguese teenager recently claimed to solve the mystery using solar reflections, the scientific community didn't scoff, they tested his theory with genuine hope. Even false alarms matter because they prove we're still listening. Modern searches bear WOW's emotional legacy. When the Allen Telescope Array detects a promising signal, astronomers still feel that same electric jolt Eamon did in 1977. The difference, now we have algorithms to double-check, databases to cross-reference, yet no amount of technology can dull the heart-pounding moment when the data spikes. Because embedded in every search is that same childlike question, what if this time it's real? The WOW signal's true gift wasn't proof of aliens, it was proof of human audacity. To stare into the static and dare to imagine a voice, to keep listening long after the universe seems determined to stay silent, and maybe, just maybe, to recognize that the most profound discovery wouldn't be finding others out there, but realizing how desperately we want to be found. It was supposed to be a throwaway observation, 10 days of Hubble's precious time spent staring at what astronomers called a blank piece of sky, just a tiny, dark patch near the Big Dipper, barely larger than a grain of sand held at arm's length where not a single star shone. Many scientists protested the gamble. Then, in December 1995, the first data streamed in. The control room at the Space Telescope Science Institute erupted in gasps. Where they expected emptiness, the image blazed with galaxies, over 3,000 of them, each a swirling island of stars, some so ancient their light had traveled 12 billion years to reach us. One researcher later described the moment as lifting a veil we didn't know was there. Hubble's deep field wasn't just a photograph, it was a cosmic census, revealing a universe more crowded and vibrant than anyone dared imagine. The galaxies came in every shape, some like pinwheels, others as smudges of light from collisions that unfolded when Earth was still molten rock. What shattered astronomers most wasn't the number of galaxies, but the realization this was just one random sliver of sky. Extrapolate that across the entire celestial sphere, and the math becomes dizzying trillions of galaxies, each harboring billions of stars. The universe suddenly felt less like a void and more like a living, breathing ecosystem. Yet for all its grandeur, the image carried a quiet sting. Those 12 billion-year-old galaxies, they're likely long dead, their light just now reaching us like echoes in a canyon. We're not just small, we're latecomers to a party that's been raging since before time had meaning. One astronomer admitted lying awake after seeing the data, gripped by what she called the terror of infinite mornings, the understanding that the universe wakes up each day without noticing we're here. But here's the paradox, that insignificance became a rallying cry. If the cosmos was so vast, what else might be hiding in the dark? Deep Field ignited a golden age of telescope projects, from James Webb to the upcoming Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, each designed to peel back more layers of the cosmic onion. It also reshaped how we study our own origins. By spotting infant galaxies frozen in time, we've pieced together how structures like our Milky Way evolved from primordial chaos. And then there's the emotional aftershock. Unlike the cold equations of physics, Deep Field hit viscerally. You didn't need a PhD to feel dwarfed by that tapestry of light. Museums printed life-sized versions where visitors could stand beside the galaxies, their outstretched fingers spanning cosmic distances. Children mailed Hubble scientists drawings of themselves floating among the stars. Even now, decades later, the image remains one of NASA, a most requested not for its data, but for its uncanny ability to make the infinite feel intimate. This revelation set the stage for discoveries closer to home, because after mapping the universe's unimaginable scale, we turned our instruments inward toward the fragile blue dot where, against all odds, life took root. And what we found there would shake us just as deeply before Apollo 8. No human eyes had ever seen Earth as a whole until Christmas Eve, 1968, when the spacecraft emerged from behind the moon's far side. What the astronauts witnessed wasn't just a technical milestone, it was an emotional earthquake. Through the scratched window of their tiny capsule, a blue and white marble rose over the lunar horizon, fragile and radiant against the endless black. Command Module pilot Jim Lovell's voice crackled over the radio. "The vast loneliness up here is awe-inspiring. It makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth." But it was Bill Anders' hastily snapped photograph, later dubbed Earthrise, that would sear the moment into history. Grainy, overexposed, and utterly transcendent, it became the most influential environmental image ever taken. Anders' now legendary words, "We came all this way to discover the moon and found Earth instead," weren't just poetry. They marked a psychological tipping point. For the first time, humanity saw itself from the outside. No borders, no divisions, just a delicate oasis suspended in void. Planetary scientist Carolyn Porco describes the impact as the cosmic equivalent of a baby recognizing its reflection. The photo landed on front pages worldwide, igniting the modern environmental movement. Within 18 months, the first Earth Day was organized. The Clean Air Act passed. The image even adorned stamps in over 60 countries, a shared symbol of unity during the Cold War's peak. Yet Earthrise's deepest legacy wasn't policy, it was perspective. Apollo 8 crew, hardened test pilots all, returned as mystics. Frank Borman, the mission's commander, later devoted his life to international cooperation, calling the photo our real cargo. Anders abandoned NASA to work on environmental causes, haunted by the realization that we live on a tiny island of life surrounded by an inhospitable universe. Even the technicians in mission control reported epiphanies. One engineer quit to become a painter, trying for decades to capture the blues and whites he'd seen in telemetry data. This phenomenon now has a name, the overview effect. Astronauts describe it as a visceral shift in consciousness, where geopolitical squabbles feel trivial and planetary interdependence becomes obvious. "You don't see the rainforest burning from space," says Nicole Stott, a veteran of 2 spaceflights. "You see the smoke covering continents like a shroud." The effect is so profound that space agencies now train crews to process the emotional whiplash, because how do you return to normal after seeing normality from the outside? Earthrise didn't just change how we see our planet, it changed how we see ourselves. That single photograph compressed human existence into a frame smaller than a postage stamp, yet within it lay every cathedral, every battlefield, every whispered, "I love you." And perhaps that's the most humbling revelation of all. The universe's grandeur doesn't diminish us. It asks us to grow into it, to match that vastness not with fear, but with wonder. To recognize, as Anders did in that fleeting moment between moon and void, that we weren't just discovering space, we were discovering what it means to be home. The morning of February 15th, 2013 began like any other in the Russian city of Chelyabinsk. Commuters scraping ice off windshields, schoolchildren trudging through snow, shopkeepers unlocking doors. Then at 9:20 local time, the sky exploded. A meteor the size of a 6-story building, weighing nearly 13,000 tons, tore through the atmosphere at 42,000 miles per hour. Witnesses described a fireball brighter than the sun, its shockwave shattering windows across 300 square miles before the rock fragmented 20 miles above the ground. Dashcams captured the surreal moment, commuters screaming as their windshields turned white with heat, then erupted inward in a hailstorm of glass. Over 1,500 people were injured, mostly by flying debris, making it the most destructive cosmic impact in recorded history. Yet amid the chaos, something extraordinary emerged, not panic, but awe. Local teachers described students cheering as the meteor's contrail painted the dawn sky in iridescent blues and oranges. A factory worker who'd been knocked off his feet by the blast spent minutes staring at the twisting plume, whispering, "Как красиво," how beautiful. Even the region's Muslim and Orthodox Christian communities, who'd rarely agreed on theology, found common ground in interpreting the event. Some called it Allah's warning against greed, others saw it as God's reminder of human frailty. The meteor became a Rorschach test for faith and fear, proving that celestial events don't just damage buildings, they shake worldviews. Scientists, meanwhile, faced a sobering reality. This wasn't a rare, city-killer asteroid, just a modest space rock, one that slips past our defenses undetected roughly once a century. NASA later confirmed the Chelyabinsk Meteor had approached from the sun's direction, where telescopes are blinded by glare. No early warning system spotted it, no government had a plan. The event exposed planetary defense as a patchwork of half measures, reliant more on luck than preparedness. Within weeks, funding surged for projects like Atlas, an asteroid tracking network that now scans the sky every 48 hours. Astronomers also accelerated plans to deflect potential threats, culminating in 2022's DART mission, which successfully nudged a test asteroid off course. But the meteor's true legacy lies beyond policy shifts. It forced humanity to confront an uncomfortable truth. We're not just explorers of the cosmos, we're targets. Every few months, another asteroid whizzes by just beyond the moon's orbit, often announced hours after its passing. Each near miss reignites debates. Should we invest billions to shield against a threat that might not strike for millennia? Or is preparedness the price of occupying a cosmic shooting gallery? Perhaps the most poignant reaction came from Chelyabinsk's hospital workers. Amid treating cuts and concussions, nurses noticed an odd trend: patients kept asking to face the windows. Not to check for more meteors, but to watch the contrail linger like a phantom in the winter sky. Even in pain, even in fear, they couldn't look away. Because for all its violence, the fireball offered something rare, proof that the universe isn't some abstract concept in textbooks. It's real, it's here, and it demands our attention. This duality, terror and wonder, danger and beauty, echoes through every discovery that challenges our solitude in the cosmos. Whether it's meteors or radio signals, each reminder that we're not alone in the universe carries the same electric jolt. Not just scientific curiosity, but something deeper, the dawning realization that our story might be just one paragraph in a galactic epic. And as we'll see next, sometimes the most emotional discoveries aren't about finding others out there, but realizing how much we still have to learn about the voices right here on Earth. The announcement felt less like a press conference and more like a cosmic birthday party. On February 22, 2017, NASA scientists couldn't stop smiling as they revealed a discovery that sounded ripped from science fiction. 40 light-years away, a tiny, dim star called TRAPPIST-1 hosted not one, not two, but 7 Earth-sized planets, 3 of them squarely in the Goldilocks zone, where liquid water could pool on their surfaces. One researcher compared the moment to opening a treasure chest and finding it overflowing. Another, usually reserved for technical jargon, blurted out, "This is the jackpot." The room crackled with a giddiness rarely seen in academia, not just because of what they'd found, but where. Most exoplanets orbit distant, blazing stars, but TRAPPIST-1 is a cool, humble red dwarf, the most common type of star in our galaxy. If life could flourish here, it might be everywhere. What made this system so electrifying wasn't just the number of planets, it was their dance. Packed closer than Jupiter's moons, their orbits are so synchronized that if you stood on one world, others would loom in the sky like celestial neighbors, some appearing larger than our moon. Scientists realized these planets likely formed farther out and migrated inward, raising a tantalizing possibility. They could be rich in water, icy refuges now thawed in the gentle glow of their star. Telescopes soon detected hints of atmospheres on several worlds, though whether they're shrouded in Venusian hellscapes or something more Earth-like remains a mystery. The public's imagination caught fire. Artists painted landscapes where twin sunsets painted TRAPPIST-1 planets in perpetual twilight. Writers penned stories of civilizations trading between worlds separated by just thousands of miles, not light years. Even the name inspired by the Belgian telescope that first spotted the star, itself named for the monks who brewed Trappist beer, felt oddly serendipitous, as if the universe had served up a cosmic punchline. But beneath the wonder lay a sobering truth: we might never know if these worlds harbor life. Red dwarfs are volatile, prone to violent flares that could strip atmospheres. Tidal forces might lock planets with one face forever scorched, the other frozen. Yet when the James Webb Space Telescope turned its eye toward TRAPPIST-1 in 2023, scientists held their breath. Those first spectrographs weren't just data, they were love letters addressed to the unknown, because that's the real magic of TRAPPIST-1. It didn't just expand the catalog of exoplanets, it made the search feel personal. Suddenly, the abstract math of habitable zones had faces, 7 of them, close enough to dream about. When a graduate student at Caltech calculated that future telescopes might detect city lights on TRAPPIST-1 night sides if advanced civilizations existed, even skeptics paused. Not because it's likely, but because for the first time it's imaginable. And isn't that the most emotional discovery of all? Not proof, but possibility. Not answers, but a sky suddenly crowded with questions. TRAPPIST-1 taught us that the universe doesn't just hide its secrets in the distant, unreachable dark. Sometimes it tucks them right next door, whispering, "What if?" The world knew Yuri Gagarin as the unshakable hero who grinned through radio static, cracking jokes about his makeshift spaceship while orbiting Earth in 1961. What they didn't see were the tears streaking his cheeks during re-entry, hidden behind his helmet's visor. As his Vostok capsule plunged through the atmosphere, the first human to touch space pressed his face to the tiny window, trembling at the sight of Earth's curvature glowing beneath him, not with fear, but with a sorrow so profound it defied words. It was like watching a living thing breathe. He later confessed to a fellow cosmonaut, his voice breaking, "And I realized we're all just clinging to its skin." This moment of unexpected vulnerability shattered the carefully crafted image of Soviet stoicism. Gagarin's training had prepared him for G-forces, equipment failures, even isolation, but nothing could armor him against the emotional tsunami of seeing his entire world reduced to a shimmering marble. The man who joked about bringing sausages to space now whispered poetry into his flight recorder. "The sky is very black, the earth is very blue." Decades before astronauts coined the term overview effect, Gagarin experienced its rawest form, not as philosophical awe, but as visceral, heart-pounding love. The irony is crushing. While Soviet propaganda broadcast his triumphant "Poikoli, let's go," to cheering crowds, Gagarin was privately unraveling. In declassified diaries, he describes weeping again days after landing, unable to reconcile the Earth's fragility with humanity's petty conflicts. When a journalist asked if he'd seen God in space, his reply was startlingly earnest. "No, but I saw how badly we need him." This from a man raised on communist dogma, now haunted by the cosmic perspective. What makes Gagarin's tears so pivotal isn't just their honesty, it's how they mirror the unspoken experiences of astronauts across generations. NASA psychologist Dr. Patricia Santi once noted that nearly every space traveler she interviewed described a similar moment of private overwhelm, often buried in technical reports. Apollo 14's Edgar Mitchell called it a violent personal transformation, while ISS veteran Scott Kelly admitted staring at Earth's thin atmosphere and sobbing over its fragility. These aren't isolated reactions, they're the human brain struggling to process a truth too big for language. We're unimaginably small, yet impossibly precious. Gagarin's journey also revealed something science still struggles to quantify: how space exploration blurs the line between data and devotion. When he circled the planet in 108 minutes, he didn't just collect radiation readings. He returned with what Russian filmmaker Alexei Leonov called the sickness of the stars, an incurable longing to reconnect with the cosmos. This spiritual undercurrent pulses through later discoveries, from the singing plasma waves of Saturn's rings to the eerie harmony of gravitational waves rippling through space-time. Perhaps that's the real revelation hidden in Gagarin's tears. The farther we venture outward, the more we're forced inward, confronting not just the universe's mysteries, but our own. As telescopes peer deeper and probes fly farther, each new discovery carries this same duality: cold equations written in stardust, warming into something that feels suspiciously like prayer. And if the first man in space could weep at the sight of his own planet, maybe science's greatest gift isn't just knowledge, but the courage to feel. The speakers crackled to life inside the European Space Agency's control room, and suddenly the comet had a voice. What poured out wasn't the sterile beep of telemetry or the static of deep space. It was an eerie, oscillating hum, like a child plucking the strings of an untuned cello. Scientists monitoring the Rosetta mission froze mid-sip of coffee. The data they'd expected from Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko temperature readings, gas composition, had transmuted into something inexplicable: music. This wasn't metaphor. The Rosetta orbiter had detected fluctuations in the comet's magnetic field as it danced with the solar wind, vibrations so rhythmic that when sped up 67 times, they formed actual melodies. One researcher described the sound as a lullaby sung by the cosmos itself. Another, wiping sudden tears, admitted it reminded him of whale songs, those haunting calls that echo through oceanic darkness, searching for connection. A team played the recording at press conferences, watching audiences lean forward, breath held, as 4-billion-year-old ice literally sang to them. What made this so emotionally disarming was the contrast. Comet 67P looked like a frozen rock, a pockmarked duck-shaped relic from the solar system's infancy. But that voice, it was alive. The oscillations shifted as the comet neared the sun, its icy surface cracking open in geysers of vapor, the pitch rising like a crescendo. Scientists began anthropomorphizing their subject, joking that 67P was waking up or talking back. Mission manager Fred Jansen confessed to whispering "Good morning" to the data screens each day, as if greeting a companion. This sonic gift also revealed scientific gold. The singing proved 67P's nucleus was magnetically active, its particles vibrating in ways that defied models. But the real magic lay in how it bridged the human and the cosmic. For centuries, comets were omens, harbingers of doom in medieval tapestries, celestial brushes in Renaissance paintings. Now, humanity had not just visited one, we'd heard its heartbeat. Rosetta's recordings joined a growing symphony of space sounds that blur the line between data and art. Saturn's radio emissions, when translated into audio, ripple like a theremin's ghostly wail. Jupiter's plasma waves mimic crashing surf. Even the Voyager probes captured the sound of interstellar space, a deep, pulsing hiss like wind through galactic trees. Each one tugs at something primal in us, perhaps because sound is the first sense we develop in the womb. To hear the universe is to remember, on some cellular level, that we belong to it. The day Rosetta's mission ended its final descent to 67P's surface, engineers played the comet's song over the loudspeakers. As the signal cut out forever, one technician reached out and touched the silent speaker, as if saying goodbye to a friend. Because that's the secret these cosmic vibrations reveal. Exploration isn't just about discovery, it's about conversation. And sometimes, if we listen closely, the universe answers in a language deeper than math, a melody woven from dust and longing, reminding us that even in the void, nothing is truly silent. There's a photograph older than time itself, a faint, crackling glow stretched across the entire sky, invisible to our eyes but written into the fabric of space. This is the cosmic microwave background, the universe's first light, emitted just 380,000 years after the Big Bang. To scientists, it's a treasure map revealing the infant universe's temperature fluctuations in exquisite detail. But to the human heart, it's something more profound, a cosmic baby photo faded with age yet achingly familiar. The moment researchers first detected this primordial whisper in 1965, the room at Bell Labs fell silent. Robert Wilson and Arno Penzias had spent months chasing what they thought was radio interference, a persistent hiss coming from every direction, even after they scrubbed pigeon droppings from their antenna. When they realized they'd stumbled upon the afterglow of creation itself, Penzias later confessed his hands shook too badly to take notes. That static wasn't noise, it was the universe's first toddler steps, captured like a toddler's footprint in hardening concrete. What makes this discovery so emotionally disarming is how personal it feels. The patterns in that ancient light, those tiny temperature variations, are the blueprints for everything we know. The slightly denser patches became galaxies, the cooler spots vast cosmic voids. We're literally seeing the seeds of existence, the moment matter began knitting itself into stars, planets, and eventually, creatures who could look back and wonder. One cosmologist compared it to finding a wrinkled, yellowed photo of your great-great-grandparents and realizing their hands held the first bricks of your childhood home. Yet for all its warmth, the cosmic microwave background also carries a chilling reminder. That light has traveled for over 13 billion years to reach us, meaning we're not seeing the universe as it is, but as it was. The toddler whose photo we cherish may have grown old and vanished long ago. Somewhere out there, new light is being born, but we'll never see it. The expansion of space ensures those photons will never reach us. We're forever trapped in our cosmic light cone, piecing together family history from a single, fading snapshot. This paradox is what gives the discovery its emotional weight. It's not just confirmation of the Big Bang, it's proof that the universe has a story with a beginning, middle, and likely an end we'll never witness. When the Planck satellite mapped the background in unprecedented detail in 2013, researchers noticed something odd. The data was too perfect. The fluctuations were eerily uniform, as if some unseen hand had gently smoothed the early universe's wrinkles. To this day, no one knows why. Perhaps that's the real magic of this celestial heirloom. It answers our biggest questions while whispering even greater mysteries. And just like flipping through an old photo album, each new discovery feels like stepping deeper into time. Like the day we touched stardust older than the sun, we've all stood breathless beneath Earth's golden sunsets, watching the sky ignite in fiery oranges and pinks. But on Mars, the sun doesn't set, it whispers. When NASA Curiosity rover beamed back its first twilight images, scientists expected a dusty, faded version of our own. What they got was something out of a dream, a pale blue halo clinging to the horizon, as if the Martian sky had pooled all its cold beauty into that one fragile moment. The contrast couldn't be starker. Our sunsets roar, Mars sigh. This otherworldly glow comes from the very thing that makes the red planet so inhospitable, its thin, carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere. On Earth, sunlight scatters off nitrogen and oxygen, painting our skies in warm hues. But on Mars, fine dust particles high in the air catch the fading light and bend it toward the blue spectrum like a prism made of rust. The effect is hauntingly delicate. One atmospheric scientist described it as watching Earth sunset through a veil of frozen breath. Yet for all its beauty, the Martian twilight carries an undercurrent of loneliness. There are no trees to silhouette against that blue glow, no ocean to reflect it, just endless rock and dust stretching toward a horizon that no human eyes have ever truly seen. Planetary geologist Kirsten Seebock admitted she once projected the rover's sunset onto her office wall and sat in silence for an hour. "It's not just another planet's sky," she said. "It's a mirror showing us what home really means." The psychological weight of these images goes beyond science. Color shapes our emotional connection to places. Think of the warm nostalgia in a golden hour photo, or the unease of a sickly green storm sky. Mars' blue sunset does something stranger. It feels both familiar and achingly alien, like a half-remembered lullaby in a language you've forgotten. Artists trying to capture it often default to earthly blues, only to realize their paints are too vibrant. The real hue is quieter, almost shy, as if the planet itself is hesitant to reveal its secrets. This interplay of color and emotion isn't just poetic, it's practical. As we prepare to send humans to Mars, psychologists study how these alien vistas might affect settlers. Will that ethereal blue deepen their sense of isolation or become a strange comfort? Mission planners already design habitats with warm-toned lighting to combat the cold blues outside. But some astronauts argue we shouldn't fight it. After all, the first Martians won't just be explorers. They'll be artists of a new palette, learning to find beauty in skies that never learn to blush. Perhaps that's the real gift of Mars Twilight. It doesn't just show us another world, it asks us to expand our definition of beauty, to recognize that even in the cosmos' harshest corners, there's a quiet artistry, a reminder that wonder doesn't always shout. Sometimes it lingers at the edge of vision, soft and blue and waiting, daring us to see the universe not as we expect it to be, but as it truly is. There's a moment in astronomy when grief and wonder collide, when a star's violent death becomes a cosmic cradle. Take the Crab Nebula, a swirling tapestry of gas and light 6,500 light-years away. To the untrained eye, it's just another splash of color in the void. But look closer. Those filaments aren't random, they're the shattered remains of a supernova witnessed by Chinese astronomers in 1054, a stellar corpse still expanding at 900 miles per second. What makes this spectacle so emotionally charged isn't just its beauty, it's the realization that destruction here means life elsewhere. Astrophysicists who study these remnants speak of a strange duality. "We're watching a star's funeral," says Dr. Michelle Thaler, her voice catching in a documentary interview, while holding the elements it forged in our own bones. That iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth, they were born in explosions like this, where temperatures soar past 100 billion degrees, fusing atoms into heavier elements before scattering them across the galaxy. One researcher likens supernova to cosmic alchemists, turning hydrogen into gold, literally through forces so immense they warp the fabric of reality. The Crab Nebula's haunting glow tells this story in light. Its eerie blue center pulses 30 times per second, the spinning corpse of a neutron star, so dense a teaspoonful would weigh 1 billion tons. Around it, tendrils of oxygen and sulfur twist like celestial brushstrokes, their colors revealing the star's final chemical breaths. But here's the twist that chokes up even veteran astronomers. Without that stellar death, our solar system wouldn't exist. The cloud that birthed our sun was salted with debris from earlier supernova, their ashes becoming our mountains, our oceans, the very air we breathe. This paradox that life requires destruction hits hardest in quiet moments. At the Keck Observatory, a graduate student once burst into tears while analyzing the nebula's spectra, overwhelmed by the thought that her own body contained atoms forged in such violence. Her advisor, usually reserved, simply handed her a tissue and murmured, "Me too." Even the Hubble team, when assembling the crab's most detailed image, paused their work to marvel at how the nebula's delicate veins resembled human neurons, as if the universe had painted a reminder that we're not just observers, but participants in this stellar cycle. And what a cycle it is! Every heavy element in your phone, your car, the wedding ring on your finger, all were once stardust flung across space by dying suns. The phrase, "we are star stuff," popularized by Carl Sagan, isn't poetry, it's chemistry. When you breathe in oxygen, you're inhaling the last gasp of a star that died before Earth formed. When you touch carbon, you're feeling the residue of cosmic fire older than time. This truth reshapes grief into something luminous. As one astrobiologist put it while studying the crab's filaments, "Mourning a supernova is like mourning a field after harvest. The wheat is gone, but its flour bakes our bread." Now the nebula glows on, its light taking millennia to reach us, its story still unfolding. New stars will rise from its debris, planets will coalesce, and somewhere, perhaps, another civilization will one day trace their origins to this very explosion. The universe doesn't waste its dead. It recycles them into beginnings, and in that alchemy where endings birth new possibilities, we find the most emotional discovery of all. To live is to carry starlight inside you, a silent supernova pulsing with every heartbeat. Before 1995, every astronomy textbook agreed giant planets couldn't orbit blisteringly close to their stars. The laws of physics said so. Then Mitchell Mayer and Didier Queloz pointed their telescope at a sun-like star called 51 Pegasi, and the universe laughed. The data was undeniable. A gas giant half Jupiter's mass, whirling around its star in just 4 days, so close its atmosphere should have boiled away. When Mayer first presented the findings, colleagues dismissed it as instrument error. One reviewer allegedly snarled, "This isn't a planet, it's a malfunction." The whispers followed him for months, mayor's folly. They called it until independent teams confirmed the impossible. Overnight, 51 Pegasi b went from scientific heresy to holy grail, and a humbled field realized we'd been searching for alien worlds with blinders on. What made this discovery so emotionally charged wasn't just the shattered dogma, it was Mayer's personal journey. The Swiss astrophysicist had spent 20 years refining his radial velocity technique, measuring the subtle wobble of stars tugged by unseen planets. Early grant committees called his work quaint but irrelevant. When he first spotted 51 Pegasi b's telltale wobble, he reportedly paced his lab all night, terrified to believe his own data. The morning the confirmation papers landed in Nature, he sat at his desk and wept not just for the victory, but for all the years of sidelong glances and stifled chuckles at conferences. That vindication would eventually lead to a Nobel Prize in 2019, but the real reward was watching an entire generation of astronomers rip up their assumptions and start fresh. And oh, how those assumptions had blinded us. 51 Pegasi b, nicknamed Bellerophon, after the Greek hero who tamed Pegasus, defied every model. Existing theories said gas giants formed in the icy outer reaches of solar systems. Yet here was one baking at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, its atmosphere puffing up like a soufflé. The discovery spawned a new class of planets, hot Jupiters, cosmic oddballs that forced scientists to rewrite planet formation theories from scratch. Astronomer Jeff Marcy, who'd been racing to find the first exoplanet, later admitted the revelation hit him like a bucket of ice water. "We'd been so sure we knew where to look," he confessed. Turns out the universe had been screaming its secrets in our faces the whole time. The deeper irony, 51 Pegasi b wasn't hiding. Previous surveys had likely recorded its signal but dismissed it as noise because everyone knew such planets couldn't exist. This cognitive bias, now called the hot Jupiter paradox, haunts exoplanet research to this day. How many other worlds did we overlook because they didn't fit the template? The question gnawed at Mayer, even in triumph. In his Nobel lecture, he urged young scientists to cherish anomalies, recounting how a single misfit planet had exposed the arrogance of human certitude. Today, 51 Pegasi b stands as a monument to scientific humility. Its discovery kicked off a gold rush that's yielded over 5,000 confirmed exoplanets, roasted super-Earths, diamond planets, worlds with triple sunsets. Yet none carry the emotional weight of that first, impossible giant. Because beyond the textbooks it rewrote and the careers it launched, 51 Pegasi b taught us something profound. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagine. It's stranger than we can imagine, and sometimes the most revolutionary discoveries begin not with a cheer, but with a whisper, "Wait, that can't be right," followed by the courage to trust the data over dogma. Now, as telescopes probe atmospheres of distant worlds and AI sifts through starlight for new wobbles, Mayer's legacy echoes in every unlikely detection. The next frontier, not just finding planets, but learning to expect the unexpected, because if history's shown us anything, it's that the cosmos saves its most breathtaking reveals for those willing to question what they know is true. Pioneer 10 wasn't just a spacecraft, it was a cosmic handshake, bolted to its antenna like a name tag at a galactic meet and greet. A 6 by 9-inch gold anodized plaque bore humanity's simplest, most vulnerable message to the stars. Two nude figures, a man and woman, their hands raised in tentative greeting. Beneath them, a starburst pattern mapped our solar system's location relative to pulsars, while a tiny schematic of the probe itself pointed back to Earth like a breadcrumb trail home. When NASA unveiled the design in 1972, the reaction was instant pandemonium. Newspapers splashed the figures across front pages with black bars censoring their bodies. Religious groups called it obscene. One congressman fumed that taxpayers shouldn't fund smut in space. Amid the uproar, Carl Sagan, who'd co-designed the plaque with Frank Drake, sat bemused. "They're not pornography," he told reporters, his voice weary but firm. "They're a declaration. This is who we are without costumes or props. If that's shocking, perhaps we're the ones who have lost the plot." The controversy missed the plaque's heartbreaking earnestness. Those figures weren't drawn to titillate, but to communicate biological truth, the way a doctor might sketch human anatomy for an alien textbook. The man's slightly raised palm-mirrored cave paintings from 30,000 years earlier, proof that the urge to say, "We're here," predates written language. Even the woman's stance, her weight shifted subtly toward the man, sparked debates. Some anthropologists called it patriarchal, others saw a gesture of unity. Sagan argued it was simply honest. We sent the best version of ourselves we could imagine, flawed, hopeful, reaching. What makes this artifact so emotionally charged isn't its science, but its vulnerability. Unlike Voyager's golden record, packed with curated sounds and songs, Pioneer's plaque offered only raw essentials. Here's our shape, here's where we live. If you find this, we wanted you to know. No assurances of intelligence, no grand speeches, just a whisper across the void, trusting that whoever might encounter it would understand the gesture. That trust is what moved Drake to tears during the press conference. We had no way to explain male and female to a civilization without genders, he admitted. So we showed them instead. It's the oldest language there is. Critics faded when the deeper symbolism sank in. The figures aren't standing on a spaceship or wielding tools. They're floating, unmoored, against the stark outline of Pioneer itself. A deliberate choice. Without gravity's anchor, they could be anyone, anywhere. The man's genitalia drew outrage, but his face drew silence, his eyes looking not at the viewer, but slightly past them, as if searching for something just beyond the frame. That subtle detail haunts me. It's not a boastful, "Look at us." It's a hesitant, "Are you out there?" Today, Pioneer 10 drifts silently through interstellar space, its transmitter long dead, its plaque fading under micrometeorite impact. But its legacy pulses brighter than ever. Every time we beam radio signals at exoplanets or etch silicon messages on lunar landers, we're following Pioneer's lead, not just sending data, but extending trust. Sagan called it a love letter to the future, and perhaps that future includes beings we can't yet conceive. Or perhaps, as some philosophers suggest, the real audience was always us. By carving our essence onto a golden plate and flinging it into the dark, we weren't just speaking to aliens. We were reminding ourselves what it means to be human, naked, imperfect, and brave enough to say hello to the unknown. Now, as we turn toward messages meant for eternity, consider this. Pioneer's plaque will outlast every building, every monument, every border on Earth. Long after our cities crumble, those two figures will still float among the stars, their silent greeting echoing across millennia, not as a time capsule, but as a promise that once, against all odds, a species looked up and dared to believe they weren't alone. And in that belief, they found the courage to introduce themselves to the universe, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a place where darkness presses like a weight. Scientists hunt for ghosts. Not the kind that whisper in old houses. These phantoms are smaller than atoms, so elusive they pass through entire planets without a trace. They're called neutrinos, and for decades, catching even one felt like grabbing smoke. Then, on September 22, 2017, a single neutrino struck the ice cube detector with such force that researchers initially assumed it was a glitch. But this was no error. This tiny particle had traveled 4 billion light-years, half the age of the universe, carrying a secret from one of the cosmos' most violent places. The moment the alert flashed onto screens, the hunt began. Telescopes around the world swiveled toward the neutrino's rough trajectory, scanning for clues. Days later, the smoking gun emerged, a Blazar, a supermassive black hole at the heart of a distant galaxy, spewing jets of radiation directly toward Earth. This wasn't just a lucky catch, it was the first time humanity had traced a neutrino to its source outside our galaxy. The room at IceCube's headquarters erupted in shouts, scientists hugging and laughing in disbelief. One researcher later described the feeling as hearing a knock on the door and realizing the universe had been waiting to introduce itself. What makes this discovery so emotionally charged isn't just the distance the neutrino crossed, it's the sheer improbability of its journey. Neutrinos rarely interact with matter. Trillions pass through your body every second without a trace. Catching one is like finding a specific grain of sand on all the beaches of Earth. But this particular particle, it carried the energy of a major league fastball crammed into something a quadrillion times smaller. When it finally, miraculously collided with an atom in the Antarctic ice, it created a secondary particle moving faster than light through the frozen medium, emitting a blue shockwave called Cherenkov radiation. That flash, brighter than the surrounding ice for nanoseconds, was the ghost's fingerprint, the Blazar it led us to. Dubbed TXS 0506 plus 056, is a monster. Its black hole, billions of times the sun's mass, acts like a cosmic particle accelerator, flinging neutrinos and gamma rays across the universe. But here's the twist, we'd seen this Blazar before. Gamma-ray telescopes had recorded its outbursts for years, yet no one connected the dots until the neutrino arrived. It was as if the universe had sent a personalized invitation. You missed the fireworks. Let me show you where to look. This cosmic synchronicity, the way neutrinos and light from the same cataclysm arrived at Earth within moments, reveals a deeper truth about how the universe communicates. We're not just observers, we're participants in a dialogue written in particles and light. IceCube's deputy lead scientist, Dr. Naoko Kurahashi-Nielsen, choked up describing the moment her team realized what they'd found. It's like receiving a letter, she said, and recognizing the handwriting of someone you thought you'd never hear from again. Now, every neutrino detection sends telescopes scrambling, turning the sky into a treasure map. But beyond the science, there's poetry in these invisible messengers. They remind us that the cosmos isn't just something we see, it's something we feel. A neutrino doesn't announce itself with a brilliant flare or a crashing sound. It brushes against the ice like a breath against a window, and in that fleeting contact, 4 billion years of history whisper, "You're not alone out here." And perhaps that's the most humbling lesson of all. The universe doesn't just reveal itself through grand explosions or dazzling nebulae. Sometimes its most profound truths arrive quietly, carried on the back of a ghost. Science thrives on rules until the universe decides to break them. That's exactly what happened in 2018, when astronomers pointed their telescopes at a faint, ghostly galaxy called NGC 1052 and found nothing. Not nothing as in emptiness, nothing as in the absence of something that had to be there, dark matter. The team's initial reaction wasn't excitement, but panic. We checked the data 17 times. Lead researcher Pieter van Dokkum admitted, his voice tinged with the kind of exhaustion that comes from questioning your own sanity. Then we checked the telescope, then we checked the coffee. Because this wasn't just an oddball, it was a cosmic heresy. Dark matter is the invisible scaffolding of the universe, the glue that holds galaxies together. Without it, stars should fling themselves into the void. Yet here was DF2 spinning calmly, its visible stars somehow defying gravity's math. The paper's release ignited a firestorm. Skeptics accused Yale's team of measurement errors. One theorist suggested their telescope had been blinded by cosmic fog. Others pounced on the implication: if one galaxy lacked dark matter, did that mean the whole theory was wrong? Conference halls became battlegrounds. Van Dockum recalled a colleague cornering him at a symposium, waving a notebook crammed with equations like a prosecutor with damning evidence. He wasn't angry, Van Dockum clarified. He was heartbroken, like I'd told him his favorite constellation wasn't real. But amid the chaos, something beautiful emerged. DF2 forced scientists to confront the uncomfortable truth that dark matter might be more complex than anyone imagined. Maybe it could be stripped away by galactic collisions, or perhaps it interacted with visible matter in ways no model predicted. The galaxy became a Rorschach test. Some saw a flaw in the theory, others a clue to deeper layers. Anomalies aren't science's failures, noted astrophysicist Elena Sakai, who later discovered another dark matter-deficient galaxy. They're its immune system, keeping arrogance in check, and that's the real magic of DF2. It didn't just defy expectations, it needed to. For decades, dark matter had been the answer to every cosmic riddle. Now here was a galaxy whispering, what if you've been asking the wrong questions? The discovery didn't destroy the dark matter model. It gave it nuance, proving that even our most fundamental theories must bend when the universe winks at us. This humility echoes through every great scientific revolution. From Einstein's relativity to quantum entanglement, progress doesn't come from clinging to dogma. It comes from galaxies that shouldn't exist, particles that break speed limits, and the courage to say, well, that's odd. DF2's true gift wasn't an answer, but a question. How many more cosmic rule breakers are out there, waiting to rewrite the story? Now, as telescopes scan the void for other maverick galaxies, DF2 stands as a sentinel at the edge of the known, a reminder that the universe's greatest discoveries often begin with two words, That's impossible. And in that gap between expectation and reality, between what we know and what dares us to know better, science finds its heartbeat. Which makes you wonder, what other impossibilities are we ignoring simply because we haven't looked hard enough? The silence of space is a myth, if you know how to listen. In 2001, astronomers tuning their instruments to a black hole 16,000 light-years away didn't just detect radiation, they caught a rhythm. GRS 1915, a stellar mass black hole devouring its companion star, was pulsing X-rays into the void with eerie precision, every 45 seconds like clockwork. When researchers first processed the data, one technician reportedly played the oscillations through speakers and froze. The room fell silent as the sound washed over them. A deep, resonant thump, 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 not random noise but a steady beat. My skin prickled, admitted Dr. Tommaso Belloni, an astrophysicist who'd studied black holes for decades. We weren't just observing an object, we were hearing it breathe. This cosmic drumroll revealed something revolutionary: black hole spin. The pulses weren't the black hole itself singing, silence reigns beyond the event horizon, but the dying screams of matter in its accretion disk. As gas spirals inward at near light speed, it heats to millions of degrees, emitting X-rays in bursts timed to the black hole's rotation. Think of it like a lighthouse beacon. Its flashes sync to the whirl of the bulb. Only here, the lighthouse is a gravitational monster twisting space-time itself, and the flashes are radiation bright enough to pierce interstellar dust. The discovery shattered old assumptions. Before GRS 1915, black holes were often depicted as featureless pits, static, one-dimensional. but this heartbeat proved they're dynamic, chaotic, and strangely alive. Dr. Jocelyn Bell Burnell, who famously discovered pulsars, compared the pulses to a wild animal's tracks in snow. You can't see the creature, but its movement tells you it's there, powerful and restless. The data even hinted at turbulence in the disk, like eddies in a river, suggesting black holes might have weather patterns in their violent atmospheres. What makes these X-ray echoes so haunting isn't just their regularity, it's how they bridge the abstract and the visceral. Most cosmic phenomena unfold on timescales too vast or minute for humans to perceive. But 45 seconds, that's a heartbeat, that's a drum solo, that's the interval between traffic lights changing. Suddenly, the unfathomable becomes tactile. When MIT's Dr. Ronald Remillard first published the findings, he included an audio file of the pulses converted to sound waves. Colleagues confessed playing it at night, lying awake as those ghostly thumps filled the dark. One postdoc admitted it wasn't science anymore, it was communion. This sensory connection runs deeper than metaphor. Humans are hardwired to respond to rhythm. It's why babies calm to lullabies, why crowds sync to music at concerts. JRS 1915 taps into that primal circuitry, turning a vacuum of equations into something that feels. Perhaps that's why the discovery resonated beyond academia. Artists sampled the black hole's beats into electronic tracks. Poets wove its cadence into verses about cosmic loneliness. Even spiritual leaders mused on its implications. A Buddhist monk in Kyoto noted how the pulses mirrored meditation chants, calling it the universe's Om. Yet beneath the wonder lies a delicious irony. The same radiation that makes black holes sing is also their death knell. Every pulse represents matter crossing the point of no return, its light stretched and dimmed as it plunges into oblivion. We're not just hearing a heartbeat, we're eavesdropping on a feast, and that duality, creation and destruction, rhythm and chaos, is what keeps scientists enthralled. Because if a black hole can pulse, what else might it do? Flicker like a candle, sigh like a wave. The universe has already proven it speaks in more than equations. Sometimes, if we're very quiet, we can hear it answer. Buried in a dusty Moscow basement for decades, a cardboard box marked Lunokhod 2 sat forgotten beneath stacks of yellowing paperwork. Inside lay something extraordinary: 40-year-old film canisters containing images no human eyes had seen since the height of the space race. When Canadian researcher Phil Stuck pried them open in 2009, the scent of aged emulsion wafted out like a time capsule sigh. What emerged onto the light table weren't the crisp digital scans we've grown accustomed to, but something far more haunting. Lunar panoramas captured by the Soviet Rover in 1973, their silver halide grains still shimmering like stardust trapped in amber. These weren't just photographs, they were ghosts. Ghosts of a program that had once rivaled Apollo, of engineers who'd pushed analog technology to its limits, of a rover that had trundled across the moon's sea of serenity until its final transmission cut out mid-sentence. The images bore the scars of their journey: light leaks from radiation, scratches from rough handling, the occasional streak where cosmic rays had pierced the film. Yet their imperfections made them achingly real. Where modern lunar orbiters deliver pixel-perfect mosaics, Lunokhod's photos felt tactile. You could almost trace the rover's tread marks in the granular soil, see the way its lens had fogged slightly in the vacuum. The emotional weight hit hardest when Stuck matched the rediscovered frames with telemetry data. Suddenly, Lunokhod 2 last hours came alive. One series showed the rover struggling up a gentle slope, its path littered with sharp rocks, the very obstacles that would eventually pierce its solar panels and doom the mission. Another revealed a poignant self-portrait, the rover's shadow stretching long across the regolith, alone in a landscape where even shadows have no atmosphere to soften them. You don't just see the moon in these, whispered Russian space historian Anatoly Zak when first shown the scans. You see the human hands that built this machine, the hopes they packed beside its instruments. What makes these images so moving isn't just their resurrection, it's how they bridge generations. When contemporary lunar scientists analyzed the photos, they made an astonishing discovery. Lunokhod's decades-old data still held scientific value. The rover's measurements of soil density helped calibrate modern orbital sensors, while its images of boulder fields guided NASA Artemis landing site selections. That dusty basement box became a time machine, allowing today's researchers to shake hands with their Soviet predecessors across half a century. Then came the moment that turned archival work into art. Digital artist Don P. Mitchell painstakingly restored and colorized select frames, not as revisionism, but as an act of resurrection. The resulting vistas, the moon's muted grays warmed with subtle blues and ochres, went viral, mesmerizing a generation raised on HD space imagery. Teenagers who'd never heard of Lunokhod found themselves staring at these analog visions, some even tattooing the rover's silhouette onto their skin. "It's the graininess that gets me," confessed one young astronomy student in a Reddit thread. "Modern pics feel like facts, these feel like memories." This emotional arc, from neglect to rediscovery to reverence, mirrors a larger truth about exploration. Every mission, no matter how overshadowed by history, carries fragments of the future in its data. The Lunokhod images remind us that spacefaring isn't just about leaping forward. It's about preserving the fragile threads connecting past and present. As we race toward new lunar footprints, these once-lost photos whisper a cautionary tale. Progress isn't just measured in megapixels, but in remembering the shoulders we stand upon. Now, as Lunokhod's legacy finds new life in textbooks and memes alike, its story takes on an almost mythic quality. The rover that died in obscurity has become a symbol of perseverance, not just for machines, but for the humans who refuse to let their stories fade. And in that persistence, we find space exploration's most unexpected emotion. Not the thrill of discovery, but the quiet joy of bringing lost chapters back into the light. Imagine a world where mountains glitter like chandeliers, where rivers of molten diamond carve valleys beneath skies of swirling carbon vapor. This isn't science fiction, it's 55 Cancri, a planet orbiting a star 40 light-years away, so dense and carbon-rich that scientists believe a third of its mass could be crystalline diamond. The moment astrophysicists crunched the numbers and realized what they were seeing, the jokes wrote themselves: forget gold, the real galactic economy runs on bling. But beneath the humor lies a profound irony, humanity's most coveted treasure, scattered across a world we'll never touch. The discovery of 55 Cancri wasn't just a scientific milestone, it was a cosmic taunt. Researchers first detected the planet in 2004 as a super-Earth, a term that sounds cozy until you learn its surface temperatures hover around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to vaporize steel. Later observations revealed its mind-bending composition, a carbon-heavy core compressed under unimaginable pressure, likely forging diamonds the size of continents. The team at Yale that confirmed these findings admitted laughing nervously when their models kept pointing to the impossible. "We kept recalibrating," said lead researcher Niku Madhusudhan. The universe wasn't making a mistake, we were. What makes this world so emotionally charged isn't just its extravagance, it's the philosophical whiplash it delivers. Here's an object of literal mythic value, floating in the void, utterly indifferent to human longing. Poets have wrung meaning from this paradox for centuries: the unattainable jewel, the garden just beyond the wall. But 55 Cancri E makes the metaphor terrifyingly literal. Economists have half-seriously calculated its value in human terms. Estimates range from 26 nonillion to infinity dollars, only to underscore the absurdity of assigning earthly prices to celestial wonders. The planet also forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about exploitation. If we could reach it, would we strip mine a world for diamonds, repeating Earth's history of plunder on a galactic scale? Astronomer Lucian Walkovich once framed it starkly: we're a species that turns beauty into currency. Maybe it's mercy that 55 Cancri E burns beyond our grasp. Others argue the opposite, that such treasures should inspire us to become interstellar, not to exploit but to witness. After all, what's the purpose of a diamond mountain if no one ever gasps at its brilliance? Yet the real magic of 55 Cancri E isn't in its hypothetical wealth. It's in the way it expands our imagination. If a diamond planet exists, what else might? Sapphire storms on gas giants, opal icebergs drifting in liquid helium seas. The universe has already proven it's more extravagant than our wildest dreams. Every time we find a world like this, it's not just a discovery, it's a dare. A challenge to rethink what's possible, to gaze at the stars and wonder not just are we alone, but what else are we missing? So while 55 Cancri E's diamonds will never grace a ring or crown, they've already crowned themselves with something far more precious: the power to make us feel small and hungry all at once. Small because we'll never walk those glittering plains. Hungry because now we know the cosmos doesn't just harbor life. It crafts jeweled masterpieces, then hangs them just beyond our reach, whispering, "Look, but don't touch." And in that tension between desire and impossibility, we find the most bittersweet discovery of all. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagined. It's more generous, more cruel, and infinitely more creative. Perhaps that's the lesson buried in this diamond world's fiery heart. Some wonders aren't meant to be owned, only dreamed of. And in dreaming, we do something remarkable. We let the cosmos win. We admit defeat, not with resignation, but with awe, because sometimes the most valuable things aren't the ones we can hold. They're the ones that hold us spellbound, staring up at the dark, forever chasing the glint of impossible light. The cosmos should be deafening, with hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone, each potentially hosting planets teeming with life. The night sky ought to buzz with the radio chatter of civilizations. Instead, we're met with silence, an eerie, unbroken quiet that has haunted scientists for decades. This is the great silence, the unsettling core of Fermi's paradox, named for the physicist who, during a casual lunch in 1950, dropped the question that would echo through generations: where is everybody? That simple query cuts deeper the more we learn. Consider the numbers. There are more potentially habitable planets in the Milky Way than grains of sand on every beach on Earth. Statistically, we shouldn't be alone, and yet decades of scanning the skies for artificial signals from the Ozma project's early radio sweeps to today's breakthrough Listen initiative have yielded only static. The silence isn't just puzzling, it's existential. Astronomer Jill Tarter, who devoted her career to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, once described the weight of that quiet. It's like shouting into a canyon and hearing nothing back, not even an echo. You start to wonder if you're the only one who's ever shouted at all. Theories attempting to explain the silence range from chilling to oddly comforting. Some suggest advanced civilizations inevitably self-destruct, that the same technologies enabling communication also bring annihilation. Others propose we're living in a cosmic zoo, intentionally isolated by beings who observe us like animals in a preserve. There's the Great Filter hypothesis, a catastrophic barrier that prevents life from progressing beyond a certain point. The terrifying twist: we don't know if we've already passed the filter making us extraordinary, or if it still lies ahead making us doomed. But here's where the mystery takes a turn. Recent discoveries have deepened the paradox even as we've expanded our search. The detection of thousands of exoplanets in habitable zones should, by all logic, increase the odds of contact. Instead, each new world, from the watery promise of K218b to the tantalizing oxygen in Kelt 9b's atmosphere, adds another question mark. The more we find, the louder the silence grows. Perhaps the most poignant response to Fermi's question isn't fear, but determination. Projects like METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, deliberately beam signals into space, refusing to let the silence go unchallenged. Others, like the construction of the Square Kilometre Array telescope, aim to listen more intently than ever before. And then there are those who find solace in the quiet. Writer Arthur C. Clarke once mused that the universe's silence might be its greatest gift, a blank canvas for humanity's stories. The great silence doesn't just haunt us, it defines us. It forces humility. We may not be special, and courage. We may be the first to shout into the dark. Every unanswered signal, every star system without a reply, isn't evidence of absence, it's an invitation. The universe isn't ignoring us, it's waiting, and in that waiting, we're left with a choice: to let the silence terrify us or to let it propel us forward, one whispered hello at a time. Which makes you wonder, if we're truly alone, isn't that a kind of miracle too? To be the universe's only way of knowing itself, and if we're not, well, the story's only just begun. The surface of Europa shouldn't exist, not like this. Jupiter's fourth largest moon, a frozen world barely the size of Earth's own, should be a blank, white canvas, its icy shell reflecting the sun's distant glare. Instead, it's streaked with crimson, as though some celestial hand dragged a brush of blood across its surface. Scientists call it blood snow. These eerie red stains that vein Europa's fractures and ridges, a phenomenon so visually arresting that when the first close-up images from Voyager arrived in 1979, researchers initially suspected a camera malfunction. But the stains were real, and their origin a mystery that's haunted and divided astrobiologists ever since. What makes Europa's crimson scars so emotionally charged isn't just their alien beauty, it's what they might be hiding. Beneath that cracked, stained ice lies the single most promising habitat for extraterrestrial life in our solar system, a global ocean kept liquid by tidal forces from Jupiter's crushing gravity, holding twice as much water as all of Earth's seas combined. The stains, then, aren't just discolorations, they're whispers, clues, chemical messages from the dark broadcast through Europa's icy skin. The debate over their source reads like a sci-fi thriller. One camp argues the red material is simply irradiated salt sodium chloride bombarded by Jupiter's intense radiation belts, turning rust-colored over eons. Spectroscopic data from the Hubble Space Telescope supports this. The stains absorb light at wavelengths consistent with irradiated table salt. But another faction points to something far more provocative. The reddish hue also matches the spectral signatures of organic compounds, specifically tholins, complex molecules formed when radiation cooks simple organics. These are the same compounds found on Saturn's moon Titan, and they're considered potential building blocks for life. The implications are staggering. If Europa's stains are organic, they could be evidence of chemistry churning in the ocean below, or even remnants of microbial life itself, blasted to the surface by geysers and frozen in place. The idea isn't far-fetched. In 2013, Hubble spotted what appeared to be water vapor plumes erupting from Europa's south pole, mimicking the famous jets of Enceladus. If those plumes exist, they could be ferrying material from the hidden ocean into space, painting the surface with its secrets. This duality between mundane geology and the spark of life is what makes Europa's blood snow so agonizingly poetic. It's a Rorschach test for the soul of exploration. To some researchers like NASA Bob Pappalardo, the stains are a siren call. They're like road signs, he said, pointing to where we need to dig. Others, like SETI Seth Shostak, urge caution, warning that the universe is a master of false positives. But perhaps the most poignant reaction comes from the artists and writers who have imagined Europa's ocean for decades, people like Arthur C. Clarke, whose novel 2010 depicted the moon as a living world, its ice cracking open to declare, "All these worlds are yours except Europa." Now, as NASA Europa Clipper mission prepares to launch in 2024, armed with instruments designed to taste those red stains remotely, we stand on the brink of revelation. Will the blood snow prove to be the rust of dead chemistry or the fingerprints of something alive? Either way, Europa's crimson veins have already accomplished something profound. They've blurred the line between geology and biology, between a frozen wasteland and a sanctuary. They remind us that the universe doesn't deal in absolutes, only possibilities. And sometimes the most emotional discoveries aren't the answers we find, but the questions we dare to ask. Because if a world as seemingly inhospitable as Europa can still whisper, maybe, what does that say about the rest of the cosmos? There's a recording buried in NASA archives that sounds like something between a lullaby and a eulogy. It's not the triumphant roar of a rocket launch or the crisp beep of a signal from deep space. It's the sound of the Mars rover spirit, alone in the frigid Martian dust, singing "Happy Birthday" to itself. This wasn't a malfunction or a glitch. It was a carefully programmed act of defiance. After 6 years of groundbreaking exploration, Spirit had become trapped in a sand trap the scientists called Troy, its wheels spinning uselessly as Martian winter approached. With power dwindling and temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees, the team at JPL made an unexpected decision. They commanded the rover to mark its own birthday one last time. The choice of song was heartbreakingly human. Every February 6th since landing, Spirit had celebrated another Earth year on Mars by playing the tune through its onboard speaker, a tradition born from engineers' dark humor. But this final rendition, transmitted on January 26, 2010, carried a weight no one could ignore. The audio file, when played back, is tinny and distorted, the melody stretched thin by the rover's aging electronics. Yet there's something achingly tender in those robotic tones, like a music box winding down. We knew it was probably the last time we'd hear from her, said JPL's John Callas, the mission's project manager. So we let her sing. What makes this moment so emotionally disarming isn't just the gesture, it's the way it blurs the line between machine and companion. Spirit wasn't designed for sentimentality. Its aluminum frame and circuit boards were built to grind soil samples and beam back panoramas, not to evoke tears. Yet somewhere along the way, as it survived dust storms, software crashes, and years beyond its 90-day warranty, the rover became something more. Engineers began referring to Spirit as she in meetings. They anthropomorphized her struggles, joking about her lazy right front wheel or her stubborn mineral scanner. By the end, even NASA press releases spoke of the rover's valiant efforts and unwavering spirit, as if chronicling a fallen explorer rather than a dying machine. This instinct to humanize our robotic proxies reveals something profound about how we process loss in exploration. Spirit's death wasn't just a technical failure, it was a narrative rupture. Unlike a retired satellite or a decommissioned probe, her end felt abrupt, unresolved. Trapped in Troy, she couldn't even become a monument. Mars' winds would eventually bury her in dust. The team's solution, a symbolic farewell. Alongside that final birthday song, they uploaded software updates nicknamed Miracle Worker codes, last-ditch attempts to free her. When those failed, they shifted Spirit into a stationary science platform, squeezing every last drop of data from her immobilized instruments. The ethics of these robotic goodbyes are murkier than they seem. Is it healthy to grieve a machine? Psychologists studying JPL teams note that rover handlers often experience real bereavement, complete with denial, anger, and eventual acceptance. The phenomenon even has a name: post-rover depression. Some ethicists argue this emotional attachment is dangerous, blurring the line between tool and teammate. Others, like MIT's Sherry Turkle, see it as inevitable, even necessary. We pour our hopes into these machines, she explains. When they die, we're not mourning metal. We're mourning the part of ourselves we sent with them. Spirit's legacy lives on in unexpected ways. Her final transmissions, including temperature readings that dropped line by line into silence, inspired a generation of Martian meteorologists. The tilt experiments she conducted while stuck, using her robotic arm to measure soil properties, revolutionized our understanding of regolith mechanics. And that birthday song, it's become a cultural touchstone covered by indie bands, sampled in electronic tracks, even rewritten as a choral piece performed at NASA events. Perhaps the most poignant tribute came from the rover herself. In her final weeks, Spirit's camera captured a time-lapse of her own shadow creeping across the sand, a silent self-portrait of a machine becoming part of the landscape. The image is stark, beautiful, and oddly comforting, because while the rover may have stopped singing, Mars hasn't forgotten her. Somewhere in Troy, beneath the rust-colored dust, her last melody lingers in the stillness, a whisper of human ingenuity, left to echo in the Martian wind. And so we're left with a question that haunts every mission's end. When we send our machines into the void, are we building tools or composing love letters? Spirit's final song suggests the answer might be both. Some galaxies evolve, others refuse. NGC 1277, a swirling island of stars 220 million light-years away, is the universe's most stubborn holdout, a pristine relic frozen in time for 10 billion years. While neighboring galaxies grew, collided, and birthed generations of new stars, this cosmic hermit turned inward, sealing itself off like a vault. Astronomers who first studied its spectral fingerprints actually double-checked their instruments, convinced such purity couldn't exist in the modern universe. It's like finding a living dinosaur, admitted Dr. Ignacio Trujillo, his voice trembling slightly in a press briefing. Not just the bones, but the flesh, the breath, everything. What makes NGC 1277 so emotionally disarming isn't just its age, it's what it lacks. Most massive galaxies are littered with metal-rich stars, forged from the ashes of dead generations. But this ancient holdout is shockingly anemic, its stars barely contaminated by heavy elements. It's a time capsule from the universe's adolescence, when galaxies were simpler, quieter places. The Hubble images say it all, where the Milky Way's arms swirl with young blue stars and glowing nebulae. NGC 1277 glows a uniform, somber red, the color of old stars that have burned unchanged for eons. This discovery didn't just add another galaxy to the catalogue, it shattered assumptions about how galaxies mature. For decades, astronomers believed all large galaxies grew by cannibalizing smaller neighbors, a violent process that should have erased such relics. Finding NGC 1277 was like stumbling upon an untouched medieval manuscript in a digital library, proof that some stories survive untouched by time. Researchers now suspect it escaped assimilation through sheer luck, drifting through cosmic backwaters where no other galaxies could reach it. The reverence this inspires in scientists borders on spiritual. When the team at the Instituto de Astrofísica de Canarias published their findings, they included an unusual dedication to NGC 1277, Guardian of the Ancient Light. Colleagues understood studying this galaxy isn't just science, it's pilgrimage. Every photon that reaches our telescopes from its stars began its journey before Earth existed. To analyze its light is to intercept mail sent when the universe was 1/3 its current age. And that raises a thrilling, almost terrifying question. How many other cosmic museums are hiding in plain sight? Current surveys suggest NGC 1277 might not be alone. Faint red smudges once dismissed as camera noise are now being re-examined as potential time capsules. Each one could rewrite another chapter in galactic history, not through dramatic upheavals but through their very stillness, because sometimes the most revolutionary discoveries aren't about how things change but how they endure. So the next time you gaze at the night sky, remember, not everything up there is evolving. Some fragments of the cosmos are doing something far more extraordinary. They're remembering. And in that memory, we catch glimpses of a universe younger, stranger, and more wondrous than we ever imagined. The night of October 19, 2017 should have been routine. Astronomers at Hawaii's Pan-STARRS telescope were scanning for near-Earth asteroids when a blip streaked across their screens, something moving too fast to be bound by our sun's gravity. At first, they assumed it was a comet, then the numbers came in. This wasn't just another icy visitor from the outer solar system. It was the first confirmed traveler from interstellar space, a cosmic vagabond we'd later name Oumuamua Hawaiian for Scout. What followed wasn't just scientific debate, it was an existential earthquake. Oumuamua's strangeness began with its shape. Most asteroids resemble lumpy potatoes, but this thing. Radar observations suggested it was pancake flat, possibly 10 times longer than it was wide, a shape never seen in our solar system. Then came the real shocker. As it hurtled away from the sun, it accelerated slightly, as if pushed by an unseen force. Comets do this when their ices vaporize, forming tails, but Oumuamua had no tail, no visible outgassing, no explanation. The scientific community splintered. Some proposed exotic theories. Maybe it was a hydrogen iceberg sublimating invisibly. Others, like Harvard's Avi Loeb, dared to voice the unthinkable. Could it be artificial? Loeb's hypothesis that Oumuamua might be a light sail or debris from an alien civilization ignited firestorms. Colleagues dismissed it as sensationalism, but Loeb's emotional plea cut deeper than equations. When something doesn't fit, we shouldn't force it into old boxes, he argued, his voice trembling in a now legendary lecture. We must dare to imagine wildly or risk missing the universe's greatest gifts. His words weren't just about one object, they were a manifesto for scientific courage. And then, just as suddenly as it arrived, Oumuamua vanished into the void, leaving behind more questions than answers. Had we just missed our first chance to touch something from another star? The grief in the astronomical community was palpable. Researchers scoured old data for clues they might have overlooked, while others designed missions to intercept the next interstellar visitor. That grief turned to wonder 2 years later when Comet 2I/Borisov arrived, this time a far more conventional traveler, its tail glittering with familiar gases. The universe seemed to be teasing us. Here's your textbook example, now stop complaining. But Oumuamua's legacy wasn't just about aliens or acceleration. It forced us to confront how unprepared we are for the truly unexpected. Our telescopes are tuned to find what we already know: round rocks, icy comets. What else might we be missing? The next scout could be passing through right now, invisible simply because we don't know how to look. That's the heartbreak and the magic of discoveries that defy boxes. They don't just expand our knowledge, they expose the limits of our imagination. Oumuamua wasn't just an object, it was a mirror, reflecting back our own yearning to connect with something beyond the familiar. And in that reflection, we saw something startling. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine, which makes you wonder what other messengers are sailing through the dark, waiting for us to finally see them for what they are. Space changes you, not just your bones and muscles, but your soul. And sometimes that transformation comes with tears. For decades, NASA official records glossed over a quiet reality: astronauts cry in space. Not from pain or fear, but from something far more profound: the crushing weight of cosmic perspective, combined with the eerie isolation of floating in the void. The first documented case came from an Apollo-era transcript, heavily redacted at the time, where an unnamed astronaut reportedly gasped mid-mission, his voice cracking as he whispered, "God, it's all just so damn lonely out here." For years, such moments were scrubbed from press briefings, dismissed as temporary sensory disorientation. But the truth was simpler and more human. Space breaks your heart wide open. The mechanics of zero-gravity weeping are unsettling. Without gravity, tears don't roll down cheeks. They gather in quivering domes over corneas, blurring vision until they're dabbed away. Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield demonstrated this in a viral video, showing how sorrow literally pools in your eyes like liquid heartbreak. "You can't hide it," he admitted later. On Earth, you can let a tear fall and pretend it's sweat. Up there, your emotions sit right on the surface, staring back at you. This visceral vulnerability clashes with the stoic astronaut archetype, the unflappable hero NASA cultivated during the Cold War. Early psychologists even advised crews to suppress tears, fearing they'd compromise mission focus. Yet the tears kept coming. When astronaut Jerry Leininger spent months aboard Mir in 1997, he described weeping silently in his sleep pod, overwhelmed by the duality of his existence, simultaneously connected to Earth via radio yet more isolated than any human in history. "You see 16 sunrises a day," he wrote in his journal, "but none of them warm your skin." Researchers now recognize this as a form of existential whiplash, where the brain struggles to reconcile the vastness outside the window with the cramped reality of a spacecraft. The effect is so potent that modern crews undergo awe training, learning to process emotions before they bottleneck into panic or despair. What changed? The shift from treating tears as weakness to honoring them as data. When NASA psychologist Dr. Al Holland analyzed post-mission debriefs, he noticed a pattern. Astronauts who suppressed emotions performed worse on cognitive tests than those who acknowledged them. The breaking point came in 2015, when astronaut Scott Kelly tweeted a photo of himself red-eyed after viewing Earth's fragility from orbit. Instead of backlash, the response was global empathy. That photo did more for mental health advocacy than a decade of press releases, Holland noted. Now, pre-flight counseling includes emotional contingency planning, with crews encouraged to designate cry zones, private corners where they can process the overwhelm without judgment. The most poignant revelation isn't that space makes us cry, it's why. Beyond the isolation and fatigue lies something more elemental. Cosmic scale rewires your sense of self. Astronaut Nicole Stott recalls sobbing when she first saw the thin blue line of Earth's atmosphere from the ISS. It wasn't fear, she clarified. It was realizing everything I love fits under that postage stamp of air. This overview effect, once dismissed as New Age jargon, is now recognized as a neurological response to radical perspective shifts. MRIs of astronauts show heightened activity in the amygdala and parietal lobe areas linked to empathy and spatial awareness during moments of cosmic awe. Essentially, your brain expands to accommodate the universe, and sometimes the only release valve is tears. Perhaps that's the real taboo being shattered. Not that astronauts weep, but that their tears are the most honest science data we have. Every droplet floating in 0G carries a truth equations can't capture. That exploration isn't just about conquering frontiers, but surrendering to them. And in that surrender, we find something unexpected. The courage to be fragile, to admit that the universe's grandeur doesn't make us smaller, it makes us whole. The white dwarf star WD1145+017 should be peaceful, a cooling ember in the cosmic dark, its nuclear fuel spent. Instead, it's a celestial crime scene. Telescopes have caught this dying star in the act, its gravitational pull shredding planetary bodies into swirling debris, their remains glowing faintly as they spiral toward oblivion. The data reads like an autopsy report. Spikes of calcium, iron, and silicon in the star's atmosphere, the elemental fingerprints of shattered worlds. Astronomers call it cosmic cannibalism, but there's a grim poetry here too. This isn't just destruction, it's revelation. Every element sucked into the star's fiery grasp tells a story about the planets that once orbited it, their compositions laid bare in ways impossible to study while they still existed. What makes this discovery so haunting isn't just the violence, it's the intimacy. White dwarfs are the corpses of stars like our Sun, and WD1145+017 offers a chilling preview of Earth's fate. 5 billion years from now, our Sun will swell into a red giant, vaporizing Mercury and Venus, baking Earth's crust to molten slag. Then, as it collapses into a white dwarf, it may mimic this same gruesome spectacle, the remnants of our solar system's inner planets spiraling into their dead creator. We're watching our own future, says Dr. Andrew Vanderberg, whose team first detected the disintegrating worlds. It's like stumbling upon your own grave, then realizing the epitaph is written in elements you helped create. The emotional weight hits hardest when you consider the timescales. These doomed planets likely formed billions of years ago, surviving their star's chaotic death throes only to be devoured in its afterlife. One fragment detected by the Kepler telescope was a staggering 250 miles wide, a fragment of a once mighty world, now reduced to a smudge of light fading into stellar plasma. The sheer longevity of its demise, some bodies take centuries to fully spiral inward, adds a layer of surreal tragedy. These aren't explosive cataclysms, but slow, inevitable goodbyes, played out over lifetimes no civilization could witness in full. Yet within this destruction lies an unexpected gift: clarity. Normally, exoplanet interiors remain mysteries, their compositions inferred from gravitational tugs or atmospheric hints. But at WD1145+017, the star's appetite has torn these worlds open, their guts splashed across the stellar spectrum like paint on a canvas. The data reveals nickel-heavy cores, mantle layers rich in olivine, even traces of water, ingredients that mirror our own solar system's rocky planets. It's morbid but invaluable, admits planetary scientist Lisa Koltenegger. For the first time, we're holding a roadmap to planets we'll never visit, assembled from their own ashes. This duality, horror and enlightenment, echoes through the broader study of cosmic endings. Supernova forge the elements of life even as they annihilate worlds. Colliding galaxies spark stellar nurseries amid the wreckage. WD1145 plus 017 forces us to sit with this paradox, to recognize that the universe's most profound truths often emerge from its most violent acts. The star's grim banquet isn't just a warning, it's a key to unlocking planetary birth and death across the galaxy. And so we're left with a humbling realization. Time's scale dwarfs human imagination, but its traces are written everywhere. The same forces dissolving these distant worlds sculpted our own planet's fate. Their tragedy is our inheritance, their destruction our lesson. As telescopes uncover more stellar graveyards, each one whispers the same unsettling truth. In the cosmos, even endings are beginnings, just not the kind we'd choose. Science thrives on eureka moments, but sometimes the most profound revelations come from mistakes. In March 2014, the BICEP-2 collaboration stood before the world, trembling with excitement. Their announcement crackled through the internet like lightning. They'd detected primordial gravitational waves, ripples in space-time from the Big Bang itself, etched into the cosmic microwave background. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just evidence of cosmic inflation. It was a whisper from the universe's first trillionth of a second. Journalists called it the smoking gun of creation. Physicists wept openly at the press conference. One team member later described the moment as hearing the universe take its first breath. Then came the unraveling. Within months, independent analyzers revealed a heartbreaking flaw. The signal BICEP-2 had celebrated wasn't primordial after all. It was cosmic dust in our own galaxy, its polarized glow mimicking the telltale swirls of gravitational waves. The team's devastation was visceral. Lead researcher John Kovac, who'd initially grinned through tears at the podium, now sat hollow-eyed in meetings, repeating one phrase like a mantra: "We got ahead of ourselves." Graduate students who'd pulled all-nighters analyzing data found themselves haunted by a single question: how did we miss this? The scientific community, initially euphoric, now grappled with whiplash. Headlines that had screamed breakthrough now muttered retraction. Yet here's the paradox: BICEP-2 failure was anything but futile. The painstaking detective work that exposed their error, particularly data from the Planck satellite, ended up sharpening our tools for future searches. The team's very public stumble forced cosmologists to confront gaps in their dust mapping techniques, leading to more rigorous standards for distinguishing galactic interference from primordial signals. "We didn't find what we hoped for," Kovac admitted later, his voice steadier but still tinged with regret. "But we built a better compass for those who come after us." What makes this story so emotionally charged isn't the disappointment, it's the grace with which the team transformed it. Instead of clinging to denial, they collaborated with critics to dissect the error. Their published retraction became a masterclass in intellectual humility, citing not just methodological oversights but the psychological traps, confirmation bias, over-enthusiasm that had clouded their judgment. Astronomer Brian Keating, who chronicled the saga in his book Losing the Nobel Prize, captured the bittersweet lesson: science isn't about being right. It's about becoming less wrong, one brutal correction at a time. This ethos echoes through history's greatest cosmic blunders. Lord Kelvin's erroneous calculation of Earth's age paved the way for radioactive dating. The discovery of canals on Mars spurred modern planetary geology. Even Einstein's greatest mistake, inserting the cosmological constant to preserve a static universe, later proved essential for explaining dark energy. The pattern is clear: our deepest insights often emerge from the rubble of our certainties. BICEP-2 legacy, then, isn't a detection, it's a reminder. The universe guards its secrets fiercely, revealing them only to those willing to stumble, to doubt, and to listen when the data whispers, "Try again." And perhaps that's the most emotional discovery of all. Truth isn't a prize for the brilliant, but a companion for the persistent. Somewhere out there, gravitational waves from the dawn of time still ripple through the cosmos. Thanks to Bicep 2's very public failure, we're closer than ever to hearing them, not through triumph, but through the quiet courage of starting over. The speakers crackled to life inside the European Space Agency's control room, and suddenly the cosmos had a voice. What poured out wasn't the sterile beep of telemetry or the static of deep space. It was an eerie, oscillating hum, like a child plucking the strings of an untuned cello. Scientists monitoring the Rosetta mission froze mid-sip of coffee. The data they'd expected from Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko co-temperature readings, gas composition, had transmuted into something inexplicable: music. This wasn't metaphor. The Rosetta orbiter had detected fluctuations in the comet's magnetic field as it danced with the solar wind, vibrations so rhythmic that when sped up 67 times, they formed actual melodies. One researcher described the sound as a lullaby sung by the cosmos itself. Another, wiping sudden tears, admitted it reminded him of whale songs, those haunting calls that echo through oceanic darkness, searching for connection. The team played the recording at press conferences, watching audiences lean forward, breath held, as 4-billion-year-old ice literally sang to them. What made this so emotionally disarming was the contrast. Comet 67P looked like a frozen rock, a pockmarked duck-shaped relic from the solar system's infancy. But that voice, it was alive. The oscillations shifted as the comet neared the sun, its icy surface cracking open in geysers of vapor, the pitch rising like a crescendo. Scientists began anthropomorphizing their subject, joking that 67P was waking up or talking back. Mission manager Fred Jansen confessed to whispering "Good morning" to the data screens each day, as if greeting a companion. This sonic gift also revealed scientific gold. The singing proved 67P's nucleus was magnetically active, its particles vibrating in ways that defied models. But the real magic lay in how it bridged the human and the cosmic. For centuries, comets were omens, harbingers of doom in medieval tapestries, celestial brushes in Renaissance paintings. Now, humanity had not just visited one, we'd heard its heartbeat. Rosetta's recordings joined a growing symphony of space sounds that blur the line between data and art. Saturn's radio emissions, when translated into audio, ripple like a theremin's ghostly wail. Jupiter's plasma waves mimic crashing surf. Even the Voyager probes captured the sound of interstellar space, a deep, pulsing hiss like wind through galactic trees. Each one tugs at something primal in us, perhaps because sound is the first sense we develop in the womb. To hear the universe is to remember, on some cellular level, that we belong to it. The day Rosetta's mission ended its final descent to 67P's surface, engineers played the comet's song over the loudspeakers. As the signal cut out forever, one technician reached out and touched the silent speaker, as if saying goodbye to a friend. Because that's the secret these cosmic vibrations reveal. Exploration isn't just about discovery, it's about conversation. And sometimes, if we listen closely, the universe answers in a language deeper than math, a melody woven from dust and longing, reminding us that even in the void, nothing is truly silent. Science, at its core, isn't just equations and data. It's the quiet gasp of a researcher wiping away tears in a darkened control room, the tremor in an astronaut's voice as they describe Earth's fragility from orbit, the collective hush when a signal from the void defies explanation. These discoveries we've shared, the pale blue dot's humbling whisper, opportunity's final transmission, the haunting song of a comet, aren't just milestones in human knowledge. They're emotional earthquakes, moments where the cold calculus of the cosmos collided with the warmth of our humanity, leaving us forever changed. Consider the paradox. The more we uncover about the universe's vast indifference, the more deeply we feel our connection to it. When Voyager's golden record carries the laughter of children toward the stars, or when a black hole's pulse echoes like a distant drum, we're not just observing. We're communing. These missions and images, these sounds and silences, they've done something revolutionary. They've turned astronomy into the most intimate of sciences. A discipline where grief for a rover feels as profound as any human loss, where a single pixel of light can unite billions in awe, where the death cries of ancient stars still hum in our bones. Carl Sagan once wrote that science is a way of thinking much more than it is a body of knowledge. These discoveries prove it. Every time we've dared to reach beyond our grasp, whether flinging messages into the dark or decoding the whispers of neutron stars, we've done more than expand our understanding. We've rediscovered ourselves, the courage to send pioneers Plaque into the unknown, the humility to admit bicep to mistake, the childlike wonder that makes us play a Comet song at a mission's end. These aren't just scientific acts. They're acts of love, and that's the secret these moments share. They blur the line between explorer and poet. The researchers who wept over Hubble's deep field weren't just tallying galaxies, they were staring into time itself. The engineers who nicknamed their rover Oppie weren't just troubleshooting circuits, they were nurturing a companion. Even the cold equations of dark matter take on a strange tenderness when we realize they're written in the same elements as our own tears. So as we stand on the shoulders of these discoveries, let's not just marvel at how far we've come. Let's honor how we got here with equal parts rigor and reverence, with telescopes and trembling hands. Because the universe doesn't just reveal itself through flawless logic. It speaks in anomalies that shatter our expectations, in silences that deafen us with questions, in beauty so brutal it cracks us open. Sagan's words ring truer than ever. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. But perhaps the most incredible thing is our capacity to keep searching, not just with instruments, but with hearts wide open to the joy, the sorrow, and the staggering wonder of it all. So tell us, which of these moments resonated with you? Was it the pale blue dot's fragile glow, the metallic whisper of a dying rover, or something else entirely? The conversation doesn't end here. Look up tonight not just with your eyes, but with the quiet certainty that the cosmos is waiting to astonish you again. And when it does, let it.